Way back in early 2017, we built Project Blue Glass, a fully custom water-cooled PC that has served me well for a little over 4 years now. Technology moves fast though, and in those 4 years, we've seen massive improvements to CPUs and GPUs. So I decided it was time to upgrade, but life with a custom water-cooled PC can be a lot of work, and so this time we're going a completely different direction. This time, we're going small form factor, baby.
Rich, I know you love your water-cooled PC, but this guy has an i7-7700K and it is getting along in years now. So, what's the plan?
Well, first off, this time, no more water cooling. It was fun, but it's too much work in the long run, right? And I fall in love with the idea of building a PC that's seriously powerful and, as small package as I can get. So this time also, I'm gonna leave Team Blue for Team Red.
Who is it?
And I wanna put a 5900X CPU and a 3090 GPU into the smallest package I can and reclaim my desk space.
All right, so I have to ask, Project Blue Glass, if you guys haven't seen that video, he has a small problem with too many lights.
Too many lights.
All right, he's got Trident Z RAM, Corsair Kill 120 fans. What are you doing this time?
Yeah, not so much this time. The GPU has some built-in lighting, so that's going to be there. But other than that, it's just going to be a sleeper. It's going to be calm and reserved and respectable. But when I need it, it'll be ready to rock and roll.
Listening to this guy thinking he's going to be respectable. Please.
Please.
All right, I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Before we build this small form factor PC, let's talk about the components we'll be using and why we chose them.
Typically, we don't start with talking about the case in our build videos, but because this PC is a small form factor build, the case is the most important part. For our first foray in a small form factor build, we chose to build into a Cooler Master NR200P case. This case comes in at 18.25 liters total internal volume, which many of you watching will consider on the larger side of a small form factor build, but for the hardware we'll be holding inside, it was the right choice. One of the big features that drew us to this case was the sheer amount of flexibility and configurability it has. This case supports either a mini ITX or mini DTX board, and features the ability to mount your GPU in either a traditionally horizontal configuration or in a vertical configuration, giving your choices on what cooling methods you want to use and helping to support larger GPUs like the one we plan on using in this build. The NR200P is small. Its external dimensions come in at 376mm long by 185mm wide by 292mm high, including protrusions. Compare that to the system it's replacing, the much beloved Corsair Crystal 570X case, and you see just how much smaller and more compact this PC is.
Other features we loved about the case are that it's almost completely toolless and easily breaks down to just the frame for easy component installation. The option to run either mesh side panels or a glass panel includes two 120mm fans to mount at the top of the case, included dust filtration on all sides, tons of radiator support, and, if we're being honest, the classic understated beauty of the case. It also comes in white if that fits your decor better. Cooler Master did a legit good job designing this case. Okay, enough gushing about the case, let's talk about what's going into the case. As previously mentioned, this system is joining Team Red for the CPU and we'll be installing an AMD 5900X to do all the computing tasks. By this time, you know how great of a CPU this is, and there's not much left to say about it other than it's still nearly impossible to get your hands on one. Don't give up trying though, if we can get one, you can too.
Let's talk about cooling that killer CPU. This was a tough one. Finding a good heatsink that could cool a hot chip like the 5900X and is compact enough to fit in our small form factor case was tough. And of course, the best choice in our case this time was the Noctua NH-C14S. This 6 heat pipe cooler with its 140mm NF-A14 fan was the perfect height for the NR200P case. Because of the size of the heatsink and the amount of heat we need to dissipate from the CPU, this decision will affect our options for GPU mounting, which is no problem thanks to the NR200P's flexibility. The only thing we really wished was that the NH-C14S came in Chromax Black to suit the build better.
CPU talk out of the way, let's talk about the motherboard that will be the basis for our build. It was a hard toss-up for us whether we go with an X570 chipset or a B550 chipset, and in the end we landed on the Asus ROG Strix B550i gaming motherboard. Why B550 over X570? Well, overclocking really isn't as important to us as it once was, and the absolute lack of a USB-C header on the X570 mini ITX motherboards sucks. And to be honest, the B550 chipset is a badass little chipset. This motherboard has two PCI Express NVMe slots, one being Gen 4, Wi-Fi 6, and Bluetooth, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and a maximum of 64 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. It's also a classy, non-splashy looking board without RGB lighting that will fit beautifully into this build.
Because the B550 chipset supports PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSDs, we would be crazy not to include a Gen 4 SSD in the build. So we chose to go with a Sabrent 2TB Rocket NVMe 4.0 SSD. This Sabrent Rocket promises performance speeds that can reach up to 5,000 megabytes a second read and 4,400 megabytes a second write. That is some serious throughput, and 2 terabytes should be plenty of space to store 2GT work, games, applications, and more.
For RAM, we went with the tried and true 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4 3600 RAM. We specifically like this RAM for this build because it's low profile, all black, and no RGBs. It's been bulletproof reliable for all of our AMD 5000 series builds we've done so far, and it's a good price.
Okay, so we have a badass CPU, tons of RAM, and high-speed storage, so naturally we need the best GPU we can get. And that's where the PNY GeForce RTX 3090 Accelerate Gaming Revel Epic X RGB Triple Fan Edition comes in. Seriously, who names this? You've seen this card already. We made a video about removing its ugly backplate, sanding, painting, and laser etching it. Or, if you haven't, click the card in the top right corner and go watch it. Anyway, this RTX 3090 has been a great card, though it's gotten little use outside of mining crypto because it's not had an official home until now. This is a long card coming in at 294mm in length. But that, however, is no problem for the NR200P, which easily can fit it. But due to its length, it means the card will be installed horizontally, which it needs to be anyways due to the CPU heatsink.
Lastly, we need to talk about power. The NRP200 supports both SFX and SFX PSUs, which limits our choices because while there are a lot of SFX PSUs on the market, we need one with a higher wattage due to the hardware within. This is where the Silverstone SX700-PT SFX 700 watt power supply comes in. This tiny but powerful PSU packs plenty of wattage to run the PC and does so without consuming a ton of space in the case. Plus, it's modular, meaning we'll only be plugging in the power cables we need, keeping our insides clean.
Alright, I don't even know why I'm asking. Are you ready to build into this?
Oh yeah, baby, let's do this!
The build came together pretty easily, but there were complications that had us making changes through the build. For example, Rich really wanted to have the NF A14 fan undermounted on the heatsink, but when putting the build together, we realized that doing so meant there wasn't sufficient clearance for the ATX power connector, and so the fan went on top.
There ended up being a lot more unused space in the case than we expected since we didn't take advantage of the NR200P's options for mounting SATA SSDs inside. So if you're considering buying this case and you rock SATA devices, you'll have plenty of options. We were very happy with the overall build and really pleased with how quiet it is running. And here it is installed at my desk, looking classy. The sheer amount of space I've gotten back on my desktop is mind-blowing, like transformational. I gotta admit, as soon as everything was cleaned, cabled, and organized, I started looking at what other bulky items I could shrink next. I'm thinking there's gonna be a smaller keyboard in my near future. I want to mention one thing though. The case comes with 2 sickle flow fans from Cooler Master that we installed in the top to help with convection. Well, those fans weren't as quiet as I would have liked, so we swapped them out for 2 Noctua NF A12x25 fans instead. Immediately there was a very noticeable noise improvement, and if you're considering this case, I highly recommend swapping out the included fans for Noctuas or your favorite quiet but high static pressure fan of choice.
Thank you for watching this video. We genuinely hope you enjoyed it and we'd love to know what you think, so tell us in the comments below. Do you like how the build turned out? Would you have chosen different parts? We would love to know. If this is the first time you've seen us, subscribe, like right now. If you like what we do and want to be all social, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And lastly, get on our Discord. It is a great growing community of people who love tech, and we would be happy to have you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.